from every direction, I believe. You know, once he figures out what's a good spot to send into some mercs. But some others are just kind of sitting out there not doing much good because Sevain just didn't have that area scouted very well. So it could have been slightly more effective, but you can see it did some damage, and at the same time it didn't do a whole lot of damage to the Raffy. He's able to repel it fairly easily because he already had a bunch of units sitting around. Puxii, on the other hand, is having considerably more trouble. He is not looking too good, but he hasn't looked too good throughout the game anyway. So, unfortunately for him, he's in bad shape. Now, again, you can see the Raffy he's really doing okay. He was able to push off most of these attacks, and even those couple of guard turrets and that Devastator are going to do well defending this little forward base against this infantry attack. You can see the guard towers are really going to start, you know, punching away at those infantry units as they are, forcing them back. So there go the mercs. You can see Puxii in frustration was asking who the heck is sending out these merc attacks. I didn't want to reveal anything, but obviously the Raffy probably also knew that it was Sevain. And I'm sure he, more than likely he knew that just based on what he knew about Puxii's setup and how far Puxii was able to come out. So, so far, really no contact between Puxii and the other players aside from the merc attack. The Raffy is rebuilding the few things that were damaged and starting to get back out his offensive units. The Raffy's basically doing fine, but now one has to wonder, at this point in the game, the Raffy, I would imagine he's wondering, well, there's an awful lot of money out there that was just spent on mercenary units. So the question there is now a good time to attack? I mean, if he's just unloaded a whole pile of money on all these merc units, is he vulnerable? This might be a great time to go after the enemy. And again, I'm assuming that the Raffy kind of knew that Puxii was having trouble this game, and just, decided to focus greatly on Sevain as his main opponent. So you can see he's starting to pile up a few things, getting a little bit ready. He, unfortunately, does not see that large collection of infantry that are in the crags, not too far away from him. He will see them right about now, though. And one mistake here on Sevain's part, you can see the infantry are starting to retreat, and that's a really unfortunate mistake. They're running away so fast. They could have stayed right where they were and done a lot more damage. I was just saying no. I was wiggling my mouse around saying no, don't retreat, because if you're going to stick them in crags, they should stay there until they're dead. That's really all there is to it, because they do so much damage while they're in there and they get the range bonus. There's no reason for them to leave. So the Raffy has moved ahead. He has definitely been stalled by that infantry group, and it has not cost Sevain much money. The Raffy has lost a few units. Several others been heavily damaged. Now here comes a wash of infantry to come up and try to do a little bit of damage to the front line of the Raffy. So it looks like even though the Raffy has a lot of units, he's probably going to be pushed back here by Sevain. You should be able to see that based on the number of tanks and infantry that he's got moving forward. With the tanks staying behind the line of infantry, that's great tactics right there. Excellent thing to do. So Sevain is obviously playing very well here. He's keeping the tanks back. They're doing the firepower while the infantry move up, take some damage, run away, keep the quads busy overall. Tanks will make short work of those quads, even Harkonnen quads. And you can see that Sevain also, I saw an MCV for him as well, so he's starting to move his base out a little bit, starting to sprawl it a bit further. The Raffy still has a very large war machine, and at this point I was starting to wonder where all of his money was going, because I knew he bought a number of units, but I just didn't see a whole lot of activity here. Puxii complaining about a little bit of lag, but thankfully I didn't see much of that. I don't think the other players did either. You can see Sevain's doing okay. The Raffy brought in a Devastator, brought in a few more units. He's just kind of moving stuff around. But at this point, I was really wondering where the Raffy's money was going. Obviously, he spent a huge amount of money on those MCVs. At 900 a pop, straight out of your factory, that's a lot of money right there. So, and now here's Sevain with making an enormous starport order of siege tanks, and again, he's just got so much money, so many refineries. He's not focusing on defense at all. If anyone was harassing him, and hitting him from an angle where he could defend himself quickly, they'd be able to do a lot of fast damage. Like, for instance, if someone brought out saboteurs, if the Raffy, for instance, had allied with the Spacing Guild at this point, sent out some saboteurs on the side, he could have just wrecked Sevain's entire base very, very easily. Sevain obviously put nothing into defense here, just economy and then just offense, which is great when it works, but it did leave him vulnerable for times where the Raffy was not able to take advantage of it. So here's a nice little flanking attack. You'll see Sevain make several nice decisions about where exactly to move his infantry, and to make sure he maximizes the damage that they do. Where are we at? We're at 22 minutes into this, so there's still another 10 minutes of play. Here's a nice little mercenary attack from the back, and at this point I suspected there would be one from the rear as well, while he was starting to move straight up the middle. I figured that Sevain, yeah, here's another attack against Puxii. This is basically the end of him, and I think he knows it. Puxii was just, Puxii did spend a little bit of time, and there's a GG from him. He did spend some time putting in some defensive structures, but he just never had the firepower. He never had the economy, the strength of the economy to build up that much of an offense or defense. And here is the pincer attack between the two groups, the Mercs and Sevain's actual combat units, which is now retreating because he doesn't want to fight his own mercenaries, which happens, and it's causing him a little bit of damage. So Sevain has a very nice combat group built up. You can see that the Raffy is bringing in some armored units. Doesn't have a whole lot at the moment. I still found myself wondering where most of his money was, but here's a little attack force, and even though they're Harkonnen, they can take and do some extra damage. They're just not going to perform well here. You can see even that Devastator got almost evaporated by the attacks of the Ornithopters combined with all the siege tanks. So that is definitely not going well for the Raffy. Unknown as to whether he could fight this off. I was still waiting for another mercenary attack to come from the back from Sevain. You can see that Puxii is gone, and still no mercenary attacks from the Raffy or anything else. Again, I'm not sure where most of the Raffy's money went. I could see that he built a great diversity of structures, and he's got 2 high-tech factories, so more than likely he had probably like 8, 9, or 10 carryalls. That's a lot of money. But he's had a good economy for a long time, so I just kind of wondered through this game where more of his money was waiting. Not quite sure what happened with that. Maybe he lost a bunch when maybe a refinery was destroyed when he was near his spice cap. That's a possibility. So now there's an error message there talking about Sevain having left the game. I can't really explain that. I think it's because I'm an observer.